Okay, moving to our next talk, which is CI/CD using Buildkite by Pooja Goyal and Kritika Vohra. This talk will give us a walkthrough of Buildkite, which is a CI/CD tool, a super powerful tool for creating continuous integration pipelines for projects. I request Pooja Goyal and Kritika Vohra to give a brief introduction of themselves and proceed with their talk.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Payal, for the sweet gesture. So I'll introduce myself going first. So my name is Pooja Goyal, and I come with an experience of 8.5 years. So I've been in ThoughtWorks since past 1 year almost, and working as a QA consultant. So I come with an experience in e-commerce, e-learning, and energy sector domains. So these and all other works that I've worked in these domains. Apart from that, I have interest in learning languages. So be it technical languages, be it non-technical languages. So I try to explore different things. So that's about me. Passing on to Kritika.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I am Kritika Vohra. I have an experience of around 4.10 years in the IT industry and around a year in ThoughtWorks. So I have an experience of working in banking domain prior to this. And yeah, like working on UI automation and API automation are other work which I did. So yes, let's start with our talk. I'll share my screen. Folks, do let me know once my screen is visible.
Yes, Kritika, it's visible.
Okay. So yes, the title of our talk is CI/CD using Buildkite. So yeah, let's just have a gist around it on what is Buildkite. So Buildkite, as the term suggests, is quite a new term, and many of the folks would not be familiar on what is Buildkite. So let's just get a deep introduction and explore what is Buildkite and how do we work on CI/CD using Buildkite. So Buildkite is a super powerful and very configurable kind of Lego blocks. It is a platform for running fast, secure, and scalable build automation tool. It is a hybrid SaaS platform that combines the power of our infrastructure, and it also has a well-defined centralized web UI, meaning we can run our Buildkite agents on the prem servers and also on the cloud platforms. So Buildkite is used for building, testing, and deploying applications. That means we can run as many jobs as we need, and Buildkite will manage the reporting of these execution of the jobs in the pipelines. So we can have parallel execution as well as the scaling would improve in Buildkite depending upon the number of agents we set up and connect and trigger our pipeline. So Buildkite, with the use of Buildkite, we can trigger Buildkite on our own cloud infrastructure, and it also helps us in increasing the speed, reliability, and also reducing the cost with Buildkite. Reducing the cost would mean increasing the scalability. So let's just go ahead and go at the next term, which is Buildkite versus Jenkins. So as we know, Jenkins is also a CI/CD tool and same as Buildkite. So we would have a question on how is Buildkite different with Jenkins. So yeah, let's just get deep dive into it. So Buildkite basically provides a SaaS platform, and we can define our pipelines and also our agents to execute the jobs, which means for executing jobs, the prerequisite is we need to have our agent up and running to trigger any of the job in the pipeline. Whereas in Jenkins, it is fully hosted and it's configured by the end user. The next point is pipeline configuration in Buildkite is very easy and it can be done via step builder in the Buildkite UI. Also, we can have an alternative way like creating the Buildkite pipelines.yaml file in our source repo. Whereas in Jenkins, we can define our pipelines.yaml file in our source repository. So Buildkite, we have a self-hosted agents that give full control of our environment and also parallelization. I would say agent is the heart of Buildkite. Buildkite agent is the heart of Buildkite. Without Buildkite agent, our pipelines won't execute. So Jenkins, it provides full control and scaling, but environment must be maintained internally. Plugins in Buildkite are community plugins, and also Buildkite has first-party plugins with the support of custom plugins. Whereas in Jenkins, there are large section of community plugins, and their interdependencies must also be managed. Talking about security, in Buildkite, Buildkite has full control on the security part. It keeps the sensitive data in firewall, whereas in Jenkins, security is user configured. The security options and privacy options, it may vary with respect to the software version and also with the plugins support. So this is how is the difference between Buildkite and Jenkins. Let's go to the other topic on Buildkite, which is the Buildkite components. So just let's check it out, how what components are included in the Buildkite. So as I said earlier, Buildkite agent is the heart of Buildkite. Without Buildkite agent, we won't be able to trigger pipelines, and also deployment would not happen. So the first and foremost component of Buildkite would say is the agent. After agent is up and running, the next component which comes in picture is the pipelines, and the deployment is the third one. So let's get and check into each one of the Buildkite components one by one. Talking about the first component, Buildkite agent. As I said, it is the heart of Buildkite, and it is small, reliable, and also a cross-platform build runner. It makes easy to run our own build and also on our own infrastructure. The main purpose of Buildkite is polling Buildkite agent API over HTTPS. Other responsibilities of Buildkite is to run jobs in the pipeline, report the status, the execution status, and the logs of the job. Also upload the job's artifacts. So these are the main responsibilities of the Buildkite agent. I would like to hand over to Pooja to carry on the further components explanation. Over to you, Pooja.
Thanks, Kritika. So now we come to the second component of Buildkite that Kritika talked about, which is pipelines. So pipelines are the top level containers for modeling and defining our workflows. So in simple terms, it is like a template of steps. So we need to run to make our pipelines work. So there are many types of steps, scripts, conditional logic that can be put inside of our pipelines. So pipelines can also be connected to our source control repositories, so which in turn allows us to run builds when our code changes. So like when we do a PR, so what happens, our code changes and we can directly, trigger that the pipeline runs. So that's the beauty of Buildkite. So when we run a pipeline, a build is created. And each of these steps in the pipeline, which are defined, we'll get to know about them as we move further in the slides. So each of these steps in the pipeline end up as a job of the build, which then gets distributed to the available agents. So moving next. Okay, moving to the third component, which is the deployments. So these are the steps that run after a build is complete and can be either triggered automatically or manually. So we see there are two ways as the images show. The first is the single deployment steps. So this means we can write a YAML, manually write steps, what and all we want to execute as a part of our deployment process. So Buildkite will go one by one inside of these steps and execute it one by one. Second is we can directly incorporate, link our repositories, the GitHub repositories or any source control repository we can link, and we can execute the pipeline.yaml file or a bash file that is associated with the deployments, and it will run as smoothly in both the ways. Moving next. So next we come on to, like, after pipelines, what do we have? First, we need to understand how a build works inside of pipeline. Can we move next? Okay. So a build, as we talked, like when a pipeline is triggered, so a build is created. So build can be triggered via 3 ways. One is we already talked about, like through a PR, through source control. So that is via webhooks. It can be in GitHub or any source control repository. Second is via a scheduled job. And the third option is via Buildkite UI. So these are the 3 ways through which we can trigger a build in Buildkite. So then we come across the build configurations. So now the Buildkite has to understand what kind of a configuration is specified for it. So it checks whether there are steps written or whether it has to fetch all the steps from the YAML file or a bash file. So once the build config is read, so the setup is very relatively easy. And with the bash, it's like sky is our limit. With YAML, we have a limitation of writing what and all we can do and not do. But with bash, we have no limits. So moving ahead, so these steps, sorry, can you go back? Sorry, my confusion. So each step here in the Buildkite pipeline gets defined and becomes a build job. So these build jobs get placed into queues. So these queues can be manipulated, and we can define that whether we want to run all the build jobs as a part of one single queue, or we want to run them as separate and multiple queues. So each step in pipeline ends up as a separate job in the queue, and then they get put into one queue and split into multiple queues. So this can be configured inside of this Buildkite pipeline YAML. So that's what the Buildkite provides us. So it's, as Kritika said, it's like Lego blocks. So the configuration allows us to put anything, any configuration that suits as per our project requirement, and we can build on top of it. So if there's nothing defined inside of this steps and configuration, so by default, it goes into a default queue. Moving next. So as Kritika showed, like the agents are the heart of Buildkite. So here, when an agent is set up and run, so what happens is it keeps on polling the Buildkite API for work. It'll keep on seeing whether there is work available or not. So move next. So we see that once the agent finds that there is work to do, so it'll pick up a job. So can you move next? So then the agent picks up the job and work starts working on it. So what is the best part about the agents is that we can have the agents running on our on-prem servers, on cloud services like GCP, AWS. We can have clusters of agents running in. So based on our configurations, we can ask like the various agents that what they should do, what they should not do. So that can also be configured, and it's very easy to set up an agent in our environment. Can we move next? So the next part comes in. The agent directly does not just work on our repositories and execute the test cases. So what it does is it clones a repository and then runs the build. So once it is configured and done, so it will report back with the status code and the output log. Can we move next? So every status code is like it's a red or a green. So green denoting that it has been a successful build, and we'll see the status code in there and an output log. So we'll see when we go to the demonstration part of it, how the output log looks like. So that output log helps us debug wherein our scenario has failed, wherein the YAML file, the execution has failed. So it gives a brief and neat informative log that is there. Move next. So lastly, we can also upload job artifacts that are created as a part of our build execution. Move next. So this is how a complete build looks like. So it's a complete green since we don't want to see the red parts most of our lives. So that's how a successful build looks like. So moving next, we come on to the Buildkite agent installation. So handing it over again to Kritika, over to you.
Thank you, Pooja. So as we have a deep understanding on what is the life cycle of Buildkite, let's go to the agents part and how do we install the agent, which means the first part of the Buildkite agent installation. So yeah, let's just get ahead and see how do we install the agent. So this slide basically explains the installation of Buildkite on Mac OS. So, which means if we have a prerequisite already installed in a Mac that is homebrew, we can use this Buildkite command, which is brew tap buildkite /buildkite and brew install Buildkite agent to install the agent. The first and foremost step is to execute this command in a Mac machine on terminal. The next step would be configure our agent token. So as we get to see, we would have the question, where do we get this agent token from? So as you could see in the image, here in the Buildkite UI, you would see in the agents tab, there is another block, which is agent token. If we click on the reveal agent token button, we would get a token, which we need to copy paste and put it in this command and hit it inside a terminal. So if you could see below over here, the image is of agents page in the Buildkite UI. Here you could see these are the various platforms where Buildkite agents can be installed. It can be installed on Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, FreeBSD, Docker, Mac OS, Windows, Linux, also on AWS. So if you could see below, these are the homebrew commands and also the installation steps we just need to have a look into and follow accordingly on our machines or on any of the platform where we need to install the agent to. Also, we have this macOS agent docs link, which gives a detailed description on how do we do that. If you want to have a look at it, we can navigate to this document and get the execution details for the installation part. So let's just go ahead on what needs to be done after we execute these two commands. So the third step is to start the agent. After we install the agent in the previous slide, our next step would be to execute a command to start the agent. So the command is buildkite-agent start --name and the agent name, which we need to provide over here. So as you could see in the logs, it gives us starting one agent and connecting to Buildkite. If we see these messages, we are confirmed that we have started an Buildkite agent. So in order to confirm this on the UI front, we just need to have a look at the below snap where we could see the agents tab. Earlier, the agents count would have been one less than the current count, which means earlier the count would have been one. But after starting the agent, the count increased to +1. And you could see the same agent name has been created. And in green color over here mentions the agent is connected and it's up and running. So this is how we start an agent on Buildkite. So let's just have a demo on how do we do this. And I would give you an overview on the Buildkite UI. So just give me a second. I would open the Buildkite UI front. Yes. So as you could see over here, buildkite.com, this is the official website of Buildkite. And the first and foremost step for us to do over here is to log in and create an account. So I've created an account over here and logged into it. If I scroll to personal settings, I would get the personal details. After creating an account, we need to create an organization. So the organization details would be visible over here, like this plus sign and the create new organization. If we click on this, we would be redirected to creating a new organization page. So when I give organization name as demo vodka and click create organization, a new organization is created. And here you could see the name is reflected over here, which has other tabs as pipelines, agents, test analytics, settings. And these are the my builds section, which gives the build details, which were executed previously for my account. So here you could see the let's get started section shows us the pipelines and the test analytics part for us to create our pipeline. For demo purpose, I would open an already created organization, which is ThoughtWorks India Private Limited. And I would go around with the agents installation part, and later I would come to the pipelines part. So when I go to the agents part, you could see this is the UI which was shown in the deck, where this is the agent quick start guides. So these are the platforms where we can install a Buildkite agent, and clicking any one of those would give the installation steps for installing the agent on the specific platform. So currently, as I'm on Mac OS, I would be installing an agent on Mac. So if I click on Mac OS, I would be getting this command over here, which I already showed in the deck. So prerequisite would be we need to have a homebrew installed on our machine and then execute this command. The second step is to configure the token. So as shown in the deck, I click on the reveal agent token button and get this token. And after getting this token, I pass it on to here in this command and hit it in my terminal to start the Buildkite agent. If we need, and if our machine asks us for other access keys or any of the RSA keys, we need to have a look at the macOS agent docs. So if I go over here, this would give the detailed overview on installing Buildkite agent on macOS, which includes the SSH keys configuration and the other parts. So now I would go to the next part, which is starting an agent. So I would open the terminal and execute the command, which I already showed in the deck, which is buildkite-agent start -- name and the agent name. So currently I would give the agent name as agent 3 to make it differentiating from the currently running agent, which is agent S2. So if I hit this command, you could see there are logs being generated, which is connecting to Buildkite and waiting for it to work. If I get this, I come over here. Earlier, you would have seen the agent count was 1. But after the command has been hit, you could see agent S3 is up and running and the count is changed to 2. Now, if you want to get into the agent details, I would click on to agent S3 and we would get the agent configuration data. So this data includes the state of the agent. So if it's in green, it means it is connected. The version of the agent, host name of the PID, the IP address, the user agent, and the OS on which it's running, the jobs. So these are the jobs where which is running on pipeline. So for any of the job to run on pipeline, we need to have our agent up and running. So here it gives the data on how many jobs were being executed for this agent. So as I have recently started this agent, it shows that this agent has not run any jobs. Below, we have the connected time, which is 1624, as it's the current time. And the last ping on this is 1624. So as Pooja mentioned earlier, we need to have a queue set up for this. So by default, it takes the default queue. So this is how the agent details are shown over here in the UI. If you want to stop the agent, we just need to click on stop agent button and it would stop the agent and the agent would be disconnected. Soon you would see the state is stopping and the color is changed to yellow and now it's stopped. So it's green. And also you would have had a look at the tab that agent count is changed to 1. Now, when I go back and when I open the already running agent, which was up in this organization, I would show you the job details. So all the details would be the same, but here, these are the jobs which were executed for this, which were executed in pipeline. So if I click on any one of those, it would give the pass and fail status and also the detailed description of the job execution. When I open this in green, which means the build has passed, and here we would see the job logs. Going back to the agent, this is how we would get the details of the Buildkite agent and the jobs running inside it. So I would go to the next part on it, which is the pipelines. So once our first step is done, that is setting up an agent, we can set up a pipeline. If I click on the pipelines tab, this is the page for the pipelines on Buildkite. Here you would see the already recently created pipelines and its execution status. Here you could see the branch which is set up as master. Also, the speed, reliability, and number of builds executed for in this pipeline. The count is also shown over here. We can there's also an option to bookmark this pipeline, and also there is another option to edit the pipeline and the pipeline edit the steps and the pipeline settings. So I would come to this later. I would first show you on how do we create a pipeline. The plus button, the plus icon, which you could see over here, redirects us to the new pipeline page. For now, I would give a pipeline name as demo vodka pipeline. I would add the same description for now. And here, as I want to associate any of my Git repository with it, I would select the account first, Git account. Now, after selecting Git account, it gives me the list of repositories which are open in my, which are present in my GitHub account. So I would select Cypress testing as a sample. And if I select Cypress testing again, by default, we have the checkbox selected, which is auto create webhooks. So these webhooks are used to trigger a Buildkite pipeline. And when we select this, it would auto create the webhooks, and we would be able to trigger our pipelines. So here, this is an option to add our environment variables. And we can also add the additional scripts or commands which we need to execute over here. So as I would be showing a sample Buildkite pipeline creation, I would not add these details for now, and I would just go ahead and create a pipeline. So as you could see, the pipeline is already created, and these are the triggering details. Now, if I want to trigger a build in this pipeline, I would just add a simple echo statement. So I can also add the echo statement over here using the steps. So if I click on edit steps, I click on convert to YAML steps, and it gives me and asks me for this confirmation. I'm redirected to this page where I can add my commands to this step page. Whereas an alternative to this, what Pooja explained, is we can also create Buildkite pipelines.yaml file inside a source repo in GitHub. So for now, in order to create a simple pipeline and execute, I would just add an echo statement over here. So I have added a command, test vodka demo, and I would click save and build. It would ask me for a message. So I would say demo, and the commit is head by default, and master. If I want to change my branch, apart from master, I need to pass that branch name over here and click create build. So if I click on create build, the build would be triggered, and here you could see the running and execution time of this build. The time gets updated and the color is red. Also, if you want to have a look at the logs, we just need to click over here, and here you could see under logs all the log details. So these are the log details, and you could see it echoed the statement which I have just added it inside the steps, which is test vodka demo. Now this pipeline execution is completed, and if I go up, you could see the color is blue and the status is passed. The time is also shown over here that it passed in 28 seconds, and the echo statement is mentioned over here. It would redirect us to this echo statement. So this is how the pipeline would be triggered. If the pipeline is passed, we could see over here. If there are any failures, we could just have a look at the failures in this section. So currently the count is 0. That is the reason we are not able to see any of the failures over here. Now, this is how I showed how to create a pipeline. If you want to edit a pipeline, we just need to go over here and click on pipeline settings. Going to the pipeline settings, it would redirect us to the already added data which we have added while creating a pipeline. So if we want to change the branch from master to any other branch, we can just add the branch name and it would make those changes. Also, we have an option to make a pipeline public. So if I click this button, it would make a pipeline public. Also, pipeline can be archived with this button and it can be read only. In order to delete a pipeline, I just need to click this delete pipeline button and give a confirmation by passing the pipeline name, and it would delete the pipeline. Now you could see the pipeline which are passed would give us the red color, the green color, and the ones which are failed would come in red. And the details would be shown over here. That is, the build is passed and the color would be crossed. So I would hand over to Pooja to explain the other steps of how to add steps in the pipelines file. Over to you, Pooja.
Yeah, thanks, Kritika. So just give me a minute. I'll share my screen.
Quick time check, Pooja. There is 10 minutes left for the next talk.
Yes, I am aware. Okay, thanks for the update, Alisha. So as Kritika told, so I'll just come to the fun part of it. So we have seen all the theoretical aspects of what Buildkite is, how it works, the UI also we have seen. So now comes the next thing, that is pipelines. So we'll continue on pipelines for another 5 minutes, then we'll move to the deployment part as well alongside. So pipelines have a lot of amazing features, functionalities associated in Buildkite. So we can have multiple pipelines tied to a single repository. So as you can see, all of these pipelines, which you see here on my web UI, are connected to a single repository. So we can limit the access to specific teams. So say, suppose there is one dev branch, there is one QA branch. So we can make deployments and we can restrict access to the pipelines based on the teams that are defined. So moving ahead, we can also make pipelines dynamic. So as Kritika showed, since we can write multiple steps on the go, inside of this writing the code for YAML, so we can write any new step and create a new build. So makes it a dynamic pipeline on the go. You can write new steps, you can write all kinds of steps that are mentioned here. Like we can have command step, we can have wait step, block step, input step, trigger step, or we can combine as a mixture of group and then run it up. So I'll just quickly run through a basic example that I've written. So this is showing the deployment of single deployment step. So herein I'm writing a command step. This first from the line number 2 to line number 25, I have written a command step. So herein we are defining a lot of arrays here. So which is following, like for example, this matrix.os, matrix.arc, matrix.test. So this is having this setup dimension is having 3 arrays, arc, OS, and test. So when we run a combination of all these 3, so we get output of 8 statements which are possible. So we can have, for example, the OS Windows, and then the arc can be either AMD 64 or ARM 64. And then again, test can be AMD. So you all know permutation and combination, I'm assuming. So based on this, we are supposed to have 8 outputs, but we have limited in the adjustment section. We have said that this combination of OS, arc, and text should have a soft fail as true. So this condition can be accepted. So out of the 8, this condition has a kind of vulnerability. Second thing is this condition, wherein Linux ARM64 and test B. So here we are not allowing it to pass. So therefore, we'll see only 7 outputs come as a result of all these steps. Then we have the wait step. After the wait, we have a block step. So for example, sometimes in our pipeline execution, we want an affirmation whether we want to, actually execute the pipeline or not. So at that point, we use a block step. Then next comes in the input step, wherein you require an input. So for example, a release tag or any information that you need with the pipeline execution. So running it, so we see, we can name it as Buildkite demo, and we run it. So we see that all these steps start running in. So we can see 7 executions of the matrix with adjustment. So the condition that was asked to be skipped will not be visible here. That was Windows ARM64, Linux ARM64 and B. We cannot see here. So all these steps start running in, and it will stop when it comes on the block statement. because it will need us to unblock it. So just holding on for another few seconds and then it will run. Okay. So far we have run 5 and you see it has taken hardly 42 seconds to execute this. So now it will not move ahead until and unless I give or release this tag and also release this information. So once I click on release, I'll be prompted and I click on OK. So then we move ahead to the next step, that is information, please. So we do need to provide any information. So it can be anything that you want as an input. So I'm putting like any date. So for example, today, 29th. And I click on continue. So this shows a successful execution and we can see there are input log informations and since we have not defined any uploading of the artifact, it shows us 0. So the other part of this is wherein I just directly link my repository and run the pipeline YAML file from there. So in the interest of time, I'll just show how this looks like. No, coming back. So we have this demo pipeline here. Okay, edit steps. So we see here as a pipeline upload. So what we can do is we can write Buildkite agent and pipeline upload. So which pipeline we need to upload, we can mention here. So I want to access the pipeline.yaml file, which is test_pipeline.yaml file, which is in my repository in the buildkite folder. So this label is pipeline upload, which is visible here. So as a symbol of notifying that this is a pipeline upload, which needs to happen. So also we can define like I want to execute in a default queue, or I can have multiple, like when we associate a queue with an agent, I can also put that queue here to run in as a part of my execution queue. So when I save these steps and when I run this new build, I'll just put in my name. So it'll again execute the pipeline. So I'm canceling it for now and we are moving to the last part of it. So we have a lot of plugins and integrations that come in with Buildkite. So we have Docker plugins, we have Terraform plugins. So with these plugins, we can integrate Buildkite pipelines and run Terraform files on it. We can integrate Docker, we can run Docker images. So we on our project use Docker images here. So we also have a lot of integrations like SSO integration. So we need not log in again and again into Buildkite to run our pipelines. We just directly log in via SSO. And it has a lot of integrations with Google Okta, OneLogin, and other sort of things. So we also have PagerDuty integrations, Slack hooks. So anytime a build fails, so we can get notifications on our Slack channels. So it also has tie-ups with Snyk. Snyk is a software application that scans all the vulnerabilities in your project and provides an automation advice. So Buildkite, with the help of its test analytics part of Buildkite, we can have the threshold values defined wherein beyond a certain point, our test cases will fail. Or maybe say, suppose there's a website, if it crosses a certain value that it like users, if it crosses, it will break down. So it will alert via Buildkite on Snyk that you have a security vulnerability. So please kind of look into it. So that's the gist of what Buildkite has to offer. With this, I'll just stop share and ask you all, if you have any questions, please reach out to us, me or Kritika. We'll be happy to provide you with answers. And we'll also look forward to all your feedbacks to make us better. So thank you so much, folks.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, Kritika. We have one question in Q&A section.
Yeah, I don't see any. Can you speak up the question? I cannot see any questions in the.
How can Buildkite be piped to Sonar Cube?
Okay, so not yet explored that part of it, but yes, we'll be happy. Can I know who asked so that I can provide them with solution later once I go across this?
It's Srinivas.
Okay, yeah, sure. I will reach out to you, Srinivas, with an answer, definitely.
Okay.
Any other questions? Do post in the Q&A section.
I have pasted a link of Google form, feedback form in the chat. So I request the attendees to share their valuable feedback, and here we will pause for 2 minutes for your responses. In case of any issues while filling the form, do let us know. Thank you.
Folks, we are awaiting your responses. Please respond to the feedback. It would be really very helpful. I think they're not able to see the form link.
I think it's shared to hosts, only hosts and panelists, not everyone.
Okay.
So I'm posting a solution like a Sonar Cube reference that Srinivas can make use of, and probably we can connect later again for this information sharing. I hope this helps you, Srinivas.
All right, thank you. It's a good presentation. I mean, I like the detail and so on. So I just given some feedback so you can go through it later on. Thanks very much.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we can proceed with our next talk. So our next talk is based on integrate Postman test to CI by Sachin Gupta.